Everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Okay, should I just start with that, perhaps?
Yeah, you just go. I'll go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Whoa. That's
Yeah.
a big Notre Dame.
Wait.
What is this?
Damn. I'll share
Is this just in, or is this like hours ago?
Today.
Wow. I missed that. So what's the story?
It might be right now. Scenes from the fire. It's at the cathedral proper. I just saw this. That's strange.
the
Here we go with the theories.
It's fucking hell.
If they're destroying the past, then Notre Dame is a bad way to go, because like Notre Dame is perhaps like one of the most known about structures out there. Like we have millions of records, and like you cannot destroy the Notre Dame. It's probably going to be there for a long time, as long as we have the historical records.
Yeah, but look at
Because
this, the spire
I
collapse.
think that they are doing architectural warfare also here in modern times, right? So they may use the yellow vest movement as an excuse to get rid of old Tartary structures. But yeah, if that's the case, they're doing it. We still have the upper hand.
Man, look at that stuff. I'm sharing the
Spire collapses in fire at Notre Dame. I wonder whether they want. Do you think that they wanted to take out the structure, or is this?
I think they needed a sign. We'll see what it is because I know nothing about it.
Maybe
Renovation works were being carried out, and there was a fire. That
sounds fucking weird, dude. Like, how many? Like, okay, first, stone does not burn like that, right? Or yeah, we know it does, but according to
they were renovating it though.
How do you ignite fire from that? What possible ignition can come from renovation work on a spire or on a church?
I'm looking, and they're calling it. They're saying the officials consider it a blaze relating to the construction, but.
Okay.
I just saw last night a bunch of stuff on all the churches in Paris being burned.
Yeah, by the yellow vests.
Yeah, and that's not the yellow vest. That's provocateurs within them.
Yeah, but are the provocateurs using the burning churches as a political weapon, or are the burning of churches the end of their actions?
Well, you can do a million things under the cover of riot, so it may be one of a ton of things.
I think it's an end. I think it's
certainly the destruction of churches and religion proper has been a goal.
Wow.
If you cannot subvert.
Oh yeah.
How weird is that the fire of like one of the most impressive structures is lit by renovation work, and how crazy is the timing among like other churches burning by the yellow vests? Now you have
this
burning. Maybe they're hiding that this is the yellow vest. They cannot hide that the church is burning, but maybe they want to hide that this is the yellow vest trying to make an uproar so so loud that the world cannot ignore it anymore.
That could be, but the Yellow Vest people on the ground have been largely peaceful.
Yeah,
And it's only the provocateurs within it. I don't know what the church burning's about. I'm sure everyone will cover it to an extent, but this is big news. So if nobody talks about this week, then we'll know something fishy is happening.
No, this will get international pretty damn quickly.
One other possible thing it could be is
They don't mention Yellow Vests at all in here.
Maybe it's just like the basic sign of the church and the organized religion being set ablaze.
That's what I was thinking initially, because last night I kept seeing articles about church burnings in France.
Yeah, so the church is the symbol of the organized religion. The organized religion is burning.
Yeah.
That's also another solution to the problem. And maybe it's just like, forget the official narrative. Just look at the symbolical value of what it is. And maybe it's just like the message of the age, that the organized religions are really taking a hit. If we go by South Park, the most recent season, they featured an episode where priests were killing other priests over this moral child molestation behavior.
Yeah.
and basically they're telling us that organized religion is devouring itself right now, and that is also what we expect to see by the script of the heaven. The organized religion that was the beast that came out of the water in the age of Aries, and that's the Leviathan that you can see in Stellarium, that great water beast in Pisces. And right now we're coming out of its tail. It has like this curly tail, and we're coming out of the tail. We're like the fish, the school of fish, and we're coming into the water bearer. And right beneath or right next to that tail is a judge. So we are being judged, each and every one of us. That's what the script of the heaven is saying right now. Saturn is returning, and he's going to judge you according to your fruit, what you have done, what you have paid attention to, because we pay with our time. We only have two possessions really on this earth. That is our attention and our will. And that's what we are going to be judged by. So what we're going to be discussing is the lance as an ancient EM tech weapon. And I hate to already give it away. I would like to have contained the mystery a bit more. But yeah, that is basically what I'm proposing. It's not going to be obvious, because the official story about the lance is, and I didn't even bother going into the wiki. I can easily talk about the lance, because we have all seen the Hollywood movies.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all been to the fairs, and we all understand the idea of like two knights having a game, riding against each other, trying to push each other down from their horse with this elongated stick, kinda. So we already know that. So yes. Is that the full story? Nope. So this is not the regular lance we're going to be viewing, but this is like maybe a precursor idea to what we are going to be showing. So this is not this is called like, this is a type of lance. This is called a fire lance.
Yeah, the flame lance, and it's yoked on the horse to hold it steady.
Yeah,
the front end's so heavy.
But it's not the original lance. This is like the idea of like this fiery weapon that can be wielded on a horse, but it's not like the regular lance I'm going to be showcasing. And also notice like this is like not a king, so well, I'm guessing he's not a king, so why is he wearing it around?
Nice seashell hat.
And we have few people have brought up the flags that we see on the flagpoles in ancient times, but I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was on New Earth channel in her atmospheric electricity video. There were some patterns showing that there is these metallic kind of looking flags on some of the poles for the atmospheric electricity patterns. So don't assume this to be waving as like it could be bended metal. That's what it could be. It could be part of the technology, even though it looks like a flag. Yeah, it's weird, I know, but just keep that in mind. This is the base of the lens. It has this weird, and yeah, I know we know this shape.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, can you, Nathan? Can you tell me what the shape reminds you of?
That's the cog. That's the sign of the omnissiah, but it's also a fluted column.
It is. So it invokes like musical instruments. It invokes like kind of Edward Litzkalnin's wheel.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't actually counted the tips because I think maybe I could make a mistake, but there's a fair amount of them.
12.
Maybe 12.
I counted.
Okay, good, Nathan. So yeah, also consider this handle. Like, why do you need this shape on this elongated stick? Because as we saw, we don't need that here. So why? And that's base shape. That's the question. Don't answer. Don't try to answer it yet. Just think about: is it weird that this shape is like needed? This shape seems to be, well, the shape doesn't. Well, you don't have to think about the shape so much as the need for like this encasement on the back of it. It doesn't seem to be very practical as a handle.
No, it's a wrist breaker.
Yeah, we can call it that for now. I think you'll.
Well, it just, if you're holding that and you're on a sword, and you're on a horse, even if you're, even if you've got that jammed under your arm, the tension on that wrist, gauntlet or no, that's dangerous. I'd break my wrist holding that thing. And hitting something.
And it doesn't seem to be following a rule of comfort with the shape. So what's up is my question. And look at this looks like a sword, but it kind of isn't because of the point. Some of the points are weird. So yeah, just think about the space as we move through. This is like some real stuff, not only drawing. So you can see that this base structure was not just a base structure, it was somehow a container for something. Can you see this? There's like this strap-on, this outer encasing strap-on holding it together.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so we follow each other. And it kind of also looks like that's the case here, but I'm not quite sure.
What you're looking at with those two is the remains of the sheath.
Mm-hmm. I would agree, because it looks like it has broken off a bit here. But yeah, that's not the important point. We're getting to it. So here you can see some other encasings here. They're very unique and different. Basically like swords. And then you also have this, if you just cut off this base, don't look at that, and then flip this 100 and maybe 90 degrees, and then you have a trumpet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the musical shape of a trumpet. So we're nearly there, guys, to the big reveal. And before I say, I can say that I'm not quite sure particularly what technology is being used, but we will see that it is technology.
Okay.
So this is the lens, and it has this bag containing perhaps the gas, I would think. It has an inlet or outlet and a curly wire going around. I would think this might be copper, because
The wire goes up again through the lens.
yes, see here.
Yep.
And that is the result. Have you ever seen that on a medieval depiction of a lance? Except the fire lance you just saw. Have you ever seen this?
That's a gun.
It is.
That's a gun. Do you remember the witch burnings, and they would put black powder around their neck, so when the fire reached their neck, it would explode in their face?
Hmm?
You remember that? I think that's what this is.
Yeah.
As soon as you hit it, it loads the spring, and the impact shoots that into anyone's face. That's cool. Holy hell.
Do you think this is the spring?
So I think so. Now, if you have something that when compressed, such as the impact of a lance, it would drive that bag of powder down and force everything in it through that opening and out the front of the lance. So in essence, you know how you can make like a shotgun hammer or a punch gun, where when you hit it, it discharges the bullet casing?
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing here. It could be other stuff, but it looks like a fucking pneumatic lance.
Yeah, that's what I would describe it, the pneumatic lance.
That is cool.
This seems to be air. It seems to be air based, right? Because this is either an inlet or an outlet of what exactly? Air? I don't know. But it definitely seems steam tech, right?
Yeah, it could be steam. It could be, I mean, you could put...
Because I wanted
but
this being like a copper coil, and copper coils can produce all types of currents, or they produce current. So, yeah, I would love to hear somebody who knows more about. Not that you are not an expert, Nathan, but
I'm going to ask.
oh no, mine's only an opinion. I've only been looking at it for a minute.
Yeah. I would love to hear like somebody who has studied like medieval stuff, if they have seen anything as to alluding to this being the case.
I'll ask two of my friends.
Yeah.
One did medieval reenactment, and the other one is big into medieval text.
That would be awesome, because I have never seen anything like this. And when we're talking about old weapons, we know that we're just starting to scratch the surface. Shout out to Martin Liedtke for the EM Fascies videos. They are absolutely amazing and driving a new area of research, and I think it has a lot of value.
So just
do
you have the description of these figures with the letters?
It comes from a very old Gallica book from the 1400s, and it has very poorly written text. It's very hard to make out. The depictions are the best.
It looks like the knight in the previous picture. It looks like the knight could pull the spring that comes out of the left side and essentially load the lance to cock it back and...
Like...
G. You see G?
Yeah.
You're saddled in your horse, you set the lance under your arm, and you pull G.
Yeah.
You pull it out, and it yanks the spring down and loads the lance. When the lance makes impact, then the spring shoots forward again, discharging the contents of the container. Now, D looks like a load spot. Gunpowder, itching powder, who cares what's in it?
Yeah.
It could be any of that stuff. This is a gun. They made a 20-foot musket, a punch gun.
and just remember, guys, how many of these were there?
That's why they had to wear plate armor. I mean, on top of the other reasons, but holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. That when were guns invented? Because you might have found an earlier gun.
Yes. Because this could be, well, we know that the Dark Middle Ages, like we have this, 800 years where they say no invention went on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. About that.
About that.
What's your family famous for? Nothing.
Just, believing in gods and raping people. That's basically the Vikings, they only raped people. They didn't believe in gods. They did. Sorry.
There were 800 years of clouds. That's it.
Yeah.
Clouds.
We know why they had to create such. But yeah, what do you think about this one, Nathan? Is this another type, or is it like an extension of the explanation?
Show me the tip. Dirty joke.
Like this thing here. I don't know what it is. Seems to be connected to the lens, not like.
Well, the front of the lance is open too. So not only do we have A and D as open cavities in this lance, which would make it way lighter than we initially think lances are.
Yeah, because we think they are complete metal, right?
Yeah, and those lances in the picture you're looking at right now, those 4 bases, if that lance is a certain length, you're going to need 20, 30 pounds of weight in that base of that lance. Otherwise, you can't hold it up without a yoke.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
I mean, take your basic variety garden shovel and try to hold it out at arm's length or even with just your hand or wrist. No way, all the weight's in the front of that shovel. Even if you tuck it under your arm, that's a tough one. But if you make more weight in the back, you can aim this thing no problem. But what are they loading it with in the second one?
Yeah, I think if there was a difference, it would be.
One is spring operated, but how does the other one work?
Yeah, good question. Maybe this one is completely pneumatic.
A blow lance.
Or gas.
Okay, yeah.
No, it still could be, but that actually could be a hand pump, like a bike pump, but I don't know.
Okay, so what about...
I'd like my horse inflated. Yeah, I'll take my lance 1 second.
Blow the lance. Blowing lance.
So yeah, I don't know exactly.
And someone inflate my horse, please.
Maybe not air, but you see that there's a continuation of the inlet. This is also hollow. So all of a sudden, as it that wasn't needed in this one, but suddenly there is like 2 hollow spaces working together here in this one. So I think it's a different type. You see, here's the spring, and it's a connector. So there are. We can assume that there were different types. So, but okay. So then we have different types of working guns or EM tech, maybe. So why the similar shape? Maybe the similar shape maybe there's a logic to the way you have to carry it and how you have to practically wear it. Maybe that's answers more about the shape than the the use of the particular firing mechanism.
Yeah. And now when you first started this, I thought you were going to go back to the old Nuremberg photos where they actually fought within range and were electrified. Now that is a fully understandable EM lance that they're using in those photos. And they're using it like guards would use halberds to keep foes at a distance. And it's powered essentially like a giant cattle prod.
Yeah.
But what this looks like is the beginnings of a gun before they discovered they could put a metal ball in it and not have to just hit people with the gunpowder part. Or perhaps the spring compressed the air and shot the tip straight through armor, just punch through armor into the flesh, and you leave your lance tip inside somebody.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I see that. Also,
so
because
you can, yeah.
Could you imagine that the tip would be like this fleur-de-lis kind of blade? Because we've seen...
Yeah. So you could, with that, instead of just hitting somebody, you could hit somebody and punch straight through them and out the back. And then you would...
Yeah, it would be like a powerful
kill shot for sure.
A powerful dum-dum.
Yeah.
And maybe that was what was needed to, counter the armor, the metal armor of warriors. Yeah, maybe the lance was basically the only weapon powerful enough to break the armor of the other knights. And maybe that's why we see the lances being used so much.
A society's weapons can be discovered through the discovery of their armor. Any society who has developed sufficient defense will have developed a weapon capable of penetrating that defense. Otherwise, they would not have any cause to need that or even understand that they need that level of defense. So look at an armor, especially in a time period, that armor exists solely because a weapon exists that it needs defending against.
It's a meta.
Yes. And it's definitely a way of looking for missing pieces in a society.
It's a good point, Nathan. I'm glad you brought that up.
Victor, as a bit of a more out there
because these weapons might be what needed protection from. Look at this sword. Like, look, if we just apply the lance logic, look at this thing.
Yeah, and you can make spring guns. People do it in prison and on planes all the time.
So
look at this too.
As a little bit more out there theory, what if that?
And look at this tip. Sorry, look at this sword tip.
What's the idea, Mike?
What if that spring-loaded one you showed? Yeah, that one. What if that spring is like sort of a Tesla coil?
Yeah, that was my initial, like a copper coil also.
The C could be a bottle containing plasma.
Like liquid?
Yeah.
So it could also be liquid mercury. We know that they had this liquid mercury and they used it in their antennas.
Yeah, all you would need is a drop or two of mercury.
It is more out there than what Nathan presents as it being a spring-loaded weapon with gunpowder, definitely. But
no, because
it could be a bottle. Like if you look at it, the tube that goes into D, it goes into sort of this the edge you see. That looks like a bottle top, and then the E going into the C is also a bottle top.
Yeah. So also I would say Nathan that the Springer idea perhaps is a little off if you consider all the pipes here, and that it doesn't look to be built to push this further down, hence the bottle top.
I think that what you're looking at is a loaded. So G is not actually a wire. G is a cord, and this is loaded. C is drawn like a bag. You see the lines of it, and everything else is sharp. And so this is loaded. When the spring is sprung, F, the flat base, will have compressed the bag. You're not looking at an unloaded one. You're looking at a loaded spring.
Okay.
Look at how tight those coils are. It could be a bottle. If it were used like a bottle, all you would need is a drop of mercury, and it would actually it would heat and vaporize and cause that plasma reaction. And all you would need is to touch the tip to anything that's grounded, and you would
get a discharge.
Static shock.
Yeah, you'll get a discharge. Wow, that could actually be like, if you mix the ideas of you both, that actually has like a third idea, and now you have, and now you know why you only have to touch with the lance to get a discharge. You only have to touch the armor.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. So it could be a cattle prod, essentially a really, really strong cattle prod too.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me think that this version is not that type is the smoke coming out of the end.
Yeah, but
is that smoke or is that plasma?
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike, because we cannot apply that logic with these people, I think, because it would certainly look like steam or gas or like firing a gun to us.
That's usually the logical assumption you go by, because who talks about plasma in the Middle Ages, right? There's just a few people among us that do that, and then the given narrative, plasma? No, that's new.
Can you see here what's going on? I couldn't quite make out what exactly went on in this one.
It could be. I'm just saying, could be that the tip of the White Knight is electrified.
Yeah.
That the tip of the Black Knight, that lance has a different structure to it to begin with.
Yeah, it looks like this rounded is part of this lance.
Yeah, it's a different type of weapon, I think.
Yeah.
So if you like if you want to electrify me, I'll go and blow you up. There you go.
But I'm just glad that I got that idea now.
Wait, go back. Okay, now you guys are aware of the horsefoot rule in statues and depictions?
Horsefoot rule?
Uh-huh.
No, I'm not sure.
If you see famous statues, depictions of famous people on horseback, you can find out what happened to them because there's a rule. 1 horse leg up or 1 horse foot means wounded. 2 means dead. 3 means lost. And so as you can see in this photo, the White Knight killed the Black Knight. His horse is reared on 2 feet. And it's an old trick that they used when they would share these stories. And you can find this in famous statues of military leaders around the world.
Excellent.
Excellent, Nathan. Brilliant info. I didn't know that.
Looking nice. Yeah. So the electrification, that would show then that the electrification method would be a procession of the fire method.
Very much could. The White Knight has superior tech. He's got a shield. His lance has more room in the back, and look at the Black Knight now.
It shows enough detail that lens of the White Knight has the what is it that you called it? The ridges that are in the pillar.
Yeah.
Oh, the flute.
Yeah.
That
Lines.
exactly that. It does show that. It isn't very detailed, but it shows enough detail for that to appear.
Yeah, definitely. You see, you have a rounding here, and his is more abruptly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, this guy has superior tech. Yes. And now that we know the code, we can see what it's describing. This, if we had it in better quality, maybe this is like a fire lance, and this is like a more pneumatic electrical, maybe EM lance, and he wins.
Yeah, and you can apply that. You can apply this horse logic to decode photos to see who won famous battles and everything. And especially if you see war scenes painted, you'll see the same thing.
Wow, that's really cool. But yeah, I also there's a lot of this tech, fire tech going on.
Hey, did you get that from the link I shared on the Archimedes?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? It definitely look like they're burning these guys, right?
Yeah. That's one of the theories on shipboard warfare.
Yeah. But it wasn't. I just put it in there basically. But what I wanted to talk about was these antennas.
Look like Atlantis.
I just wanted to show perhaps some of the more new to this that we have had, antenna on churches for a very long time, and that churches are churches, as in religious ceremonies or religious ceremonial centers. It's basically hard to defend when you think about all the technology that seems to be on these churches.
You see in that past photo too, the inventor is resting while the observer puts a feather in his cap.
No?
Stuck a feather in his cap. It's a mark of a job well done.
That's it.
Wow, Nathan, you're full of coded information. And look what I was talking about, this flag, as we saw on top of the land.
Uh-huh.
This is also found here. I'll just go back.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, iconography was a really big thing for them, wasn't it?
Always.
This flag, you have to try to think of it not as a flag, but as a part of the design of the instrument.
Had that been a more detailed or higher resolution image, you would have actually seen a depiction on that flag. You can see stuff going on it.
Yeah, they would write things on it, but it's metal, probably.
Oh yeah.
So it's part of whatever this thing does, and it helps.
Okay. So the shape you're seeing there, if they wove silver strand into that flag, it would be so heavy that it wouldn't hold up. So they cut that triangle out of it to assist with the weight, so it can still act with the wind, but it also acts as a conductor.
Yeah. Thank you, Nathan. And do you know what supposedly is in these balls?
Enough mercury to cause a plasma reaction.
Exactly.
And people think you need to fill it with mercury. No, not at all.
This is a modern news story. And I'm just showing you like the basic thing about it. Cut a view of the antenna reservoir and tube. And yeah, there you go. And shout out to Mike Oz from the Mudflood Researchers. He showed me this. And basically my point was just to show people that in the 1600s, people are making antennas.
Antennas! Fucking awesome, man. Nice. So Nathan, what did you want to present today?
And also, sorry. One last. These are the mercury balls in action.
Oh yeah.
Look. So they are not only antennas. I think you could also make these balls excited in a state so as they cause illumination.
Make these balls excited.
Yeah, as in energy.
Yes.
Electrons and stuff like that. Yeah.
Goodness gracious, Greek balls of fire.
Electricity. And you have this mercury ball underneath an antenna, just as we have here. So, boom.
We're getting there, guys. We're really getting there.
Yeah. And this is it being used inside a large ballroom. Look at this. Look at the power of light it creates. Look at the long shadows. And basically, this is also emitting a frequency that is picked up by all these other receivers. So they light up. That is basically my idea, because I've seen many depictions of, like, you have an illumination event and then you have this glowing ball in the middle, seeming to cause like the rest of being the power source of the rest.
Yeah, so like the scene from The Prestige.
Yes.
Where David Bowie hands Hugh Jackman a light bulb and there's no cord.
Yeah, exactly. And they did that California experiment, supposedly.
Yeah.
And here you see it again. The power source is here. And then you have these free hanging light bulbs lighting up. You would see how that would work, right?
Yep.
Any glass maker just has to cast a glass dome with a bit of liquid inside to excite the reaction.
And are we again seeing giantage here? Is this like a giant, and is this a smaller adult? It's always one of my questions. Even though these look like children, this looks like a small adult. So that's the very confusing part about what I brought up in my channel or in my chat with Philip, is that if you have giants and small adults, these giants are going to have kids. That's going to be approximately the same size as the small adults. So we have a problem.
It's a time of great mixture.
Yeah, but I love exploring these ideas, even though that it may turn out to be entirely dismissed along. I'm just glad that I'm out there.
No, it's definitely worth putting out.
Yeah.
And what if these dark ages, on the vein of giants, what if these dark ages are just hidden for that reason? It's a great time of mixing of the breeds, just like the missing years of the Christ.
Yes. Oh yeah, this is my end. So not to take up more time, I think I have shown enough. So Nathan,
those lances have been incredible.
I thank you very much.
At this point, I need to use the restroom before I get into it. Just give me 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll take.
Okay. So Andreas, you have to edit this part out. Then I'll just also take a long hit.
Or not, I'll just present what I've been thinking about, and I'm going to dig deeper into this, but I have serious doubts because mine really will take a short time, like 5 minutes or so, because I want more background before I say this for sure. But it looks like Amsterdam wasn't built on a swamp at all. Like the historical narrative given to us is Amsterdam is built on a swamp. The important buildings are held up by pillars, and the less important buildings, like the houses, are held up by cowhides. Yet in the 500-600 years of Amsterdam's history, none of these buildings have actually sunken into anything.
No.
Then when they started digging the new subway line, which they had to use, get this, a tunnel boring machine for, all sorts of damage started appearing to the old buildings in Amsterdam, and they had to shut down the work for the longest of times to figure out how to prevent the buildings from being damaged. which ties me into it being solid bedrock that Amsterdam was originally built up. Like we discussed before, Victor, I think that Martin has a really good point that Amsterdam could have been rebuilt at a certain point and then extended by using the plans that was Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not a swamp at all. I think it's a piece of solid bedrock that pretty much all these star fort cities we've been finding are built on.
Mike, now, if I wanted to drill in a swamp, would I be an idiot?
Yeah, you'd be a dumb. Sorry, sorry, Andreas. I shouldn't curse. You'd be pretty stupid.
That's accurate.
If you use a tunnel boring machine in a swamp, it would probably sink your tunnel boring machine into the swamp. That's my thought. And the excuse they give is like, well, this swamp has been settling for all this time since Amsterdam has been on it, so all the ground has compacted into a more solid mass. That would still not explain how a tunnel boring machine would make all the buildings above it vibrate to such a level that cracks starts appearing and buildings get damaged.
No, that would imply that however deep you're drilling, what you're drilling into is connected structurally to the buildings above cracking. That has to be a very, the density has to be very high.
But like I said, I really want to keep it at this before I start making this.
It's a devastating blow to the narrative.
Yeah, that's it.
It falls flat. It's like, when, and not to go there too much, if you wanted to debate an astrophysicist about space, you could just ask him for, or if you wanted to debate him on the shape of the Earth, you could just ask him for proof of the radius that they're presupposing in all their maths, the so-called R value, and he would, would have to admit, if he was intellectually honest, that he has no such evidence, at least scientifically.
Show your work.
Yeah.
I can't show my work at the moment, Nathan. That's why I said
Oh, not you. I mean the scientist.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. What was my point? So it's kind of like their narrative is kind of like the astrophysicists.
It makes absolutely no sense.
And ask one question to point out that their lack of knowledge or their lack of an answer, a good answer to that question, just makes their the whole narrative fall flat. It's like if you were in a murder trial and you convicted someone without evidence. Yeah.
Yeah, but my whole question, like that's what I'll keep it out for this week, is why would you use a tunnel boring machine to get through a swamp? There's no reason to.
No. But what would you do if it was a swamp?
Amsterdam. What would I do?
If you wanted to build Amsterdam on a swamp, what would you do?
Well, that's what they tell, right? The important buildings are on poles, like the wooden poles they ram into the ground to build a foundation on. So it stabilizes, and the houses and stuff are built on cowhides, which has been, according to the given narrative, been used since the Middle Ages.
So if you wanted to build something on a swamp, you actually think that it's a good idea to build something on a swamp?
No,
wait a second. That actually happened when you look at the birth of Venice, and yes, to an extent, but to an extent, it's ridiculous. But at the same time, when you look at the endless repairs that they have done, anybody who's into the Venetian bankers and the black nobility has the the story of the Venetians themselves saying that they're done with Byzantium and everything, and they will rise a new capital out of the swamps. And you could do it, but you would never, ever be done repairing it unless you got to the bedrock beneath, which you can't do with the tree. It's further down. Just look at the mansions in America hammered into the bedrock.
That's why I don't see it as a viable option. It's just no one is going to accept that's what we're going to do. Like a team of engineers come to their to the workplace in the morning, and their boss is saying, we're going to build a huge city on a swamp.
That sounds like a perfectly good idea, boss. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well,
you could invent their faces, right?
That's New Orleans.
But that's why
years.
No,
that's
maybe what we're not saying that there isn't a swamp. We're saying that the swamp came after the city.
Yeah,
that could be a thing. I could definitely get behind that because it's the only answer.
And one of our points is that it's not a viable option to build anything on a swamp. No one that has the intelligence to build such structures as we see in both Amsterdam and Venice would agree to build something on a swamp. That's basically my position.
What if it was frozen?
If the swamp was frozen?
Completely frozen. The birth of Venice actually predates that.
Water, right? Frozen water, right?
Frozen mud.
Okay, frozen mud. So frozen mud, wouldn't that petrify? We see mud fossils, right? The mud reaches a certain level of petrification itself, right?
Sometimes, yes. It all depends on the rock that makes up the mud, the sand and water mixture. Yeah. And now we're getting into cement, which is what I will be talking about today.
We would need a high level of petrification. But that's not in either of the stories. We would get that, right?
The given narrative seems pretty damn false.
Yeah, and it's basically we want to stress that we can be lazy on our asses and just assert that it's not possible. we desperately want to say that's possible. So we're trying to find an angle.
Yep. Yeah, I'm playing devil's advocate because we know it exists. Yeah. So why? It's worth some deep consideration.
It's in the wake of Martin's great Amsterdam episode, wherein he suggests that that Amsterdam, the logic of its building, is actually indicative of a rebuilding, like an excavation, and that the long time planning for Amsterdam was not planned; it was dug out.
I just today saw an old map of the Netherlands. Yes, I meant the Netherlands, which doesn't at all show the star forts in my city of birth.
Like how far ago?
I'm not sure of the date because I was actually at that point pretty stunned that my buddy, who I hadn't talked to in quite a while, had a house full of old maps and old medieval text, and then a map of star forts on his toilet. Like, what?
Now you're friends again.
No, we just hadn't talked because he was extremely busy all this time. And he called this morning like, dude, I finally have some time. Are you able to drop by at all this afternoon? Yeah, sure, I'll drop by. And I knew he was interested in medieval stuff, but he found a girlfriend who is just as much into the medieval stuff. So he went haywire with
Yes. Is this the same friend that you told about the star forts before?
No, actually, no. Like I said, I haven't talked to him much longer than I've been in the Starfort research. So we talked a bit about that. I asked the question, "Have you heard about Tartary?" We discussed that a bit. Then I posed my Amsterdam question to him, like, "What do you think of that?" He's like, "Oh, that," and you see him like think and going like, he's giving a lot of points that are just unrefutable. Like, why would you use a tunnel boring machine to go and dig a new metro line under Amsterdam? That they knew how they made the old metro lines, quote unquote. They knew how they made the old metro lines. Why didn't they use that method to not damage the buildings? Because apparently that worked.
Yeah.
That didn't never damage any buildings in Amsterdam. Now it might be that all the metro lines go around the city center, and that's why they tried to build Metro Line 1 under the city center, which would explain why all the new metro lines, or old metro lines, sorry, are around the city center. And the new ones, they wanted to get through the city center, and they encountered solid bedrock, needed a tunnel boring machine. At which point the tunnel boring machine started damaging the buildings in the city center. But that's me. I'd like to give it all to you now, Nathan. I'm going to dig into it more and present something, some more stuff with pictures next week.
Hell yes, I'd like to see the alternative you come up with. We know the original isn't sound when you look at it objectively, so I wonder what and why and how. Just
That's
plainly.
Yeah, me too. Basically, that's why.
Yeah, I'm going to look up maps of the metro lines to see where they go and how they run, because that would explain a lot in.
But as Philip said in my, we were discussing the round forts in the chat, and he was like comparing it with the metro lines having these round parts to them where they could rotate, so that one line could, so you could have a cross section, and then you could rotate an entire section within the cross to make one train pass in one direction and close for another direction.
Yes.
And I think he was alluding to that would be the same technology as in the rotating forts if they were mechanical. And I say yes.
That makes perfect sense.
That is very, very, very much possible, and it seems very much likely.
And I want to hear all about concrete, though, because before, like I said, before we go further into what Amsterdam is, and metro lines, I want to know about concrete.
Well, maybe concrete is just, it's just the idea. Maybe it wasn't concrete as we know concrete.
Nathan?
We don't know concrete. That's our problem.
Yeah, I don't know concrete, so I can't say that we don't know concrete. But I think we don't know based on what we see in the older structures and how they were built. Because concrete has come up as a very important theme, and wouldn't we know that that rebar and steel structures, like we built them in the so-called Industrial Revolution, is found with ancient structures. And if you want to see more on that, just go follow YSub channel.
Oh, then I might disappoint you with what I'm about to share.
Oh, disappoint me in what way?
Well, perhaps I'm not the first to get to this.
Are you going to destroy one of my illusions?
I don't know. I might have to look at Wise Up channel.
Oh, you haven't yet.
Nope. There isn't enough time.
No, that's it. There isn't enough time in my day.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, Nathan. Take it away.
Let's see.
Yes, sir. The burning
All
mirror.
right. Beautiful. Now, we already talked about Archimedes and the burning mirror. We talked about Count Olaf using the same thing to destroy. And we spoke on the frontal lens, and we spoke on lighthouses and how those ideas can in essence cause fire, collect heat, collect light. And now we get to the good stuff. Why would you use this just for fire when you can boil stone with it?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
It's a solar forge. It's a sun forge.
Yeah. I get your point.
So,
You use the sun to make materials for construction. That's what you're getting at.
this is an ethanol.
Have
you heard of this?
The alchemical burning furnaces. Like the alchemical oven.
All new to me, Nathan. I don't know the faintest.
The Athanor is essentially an easy bake oven for the thaumaturge, for the metallurgist, for the alchemical world.
Yes.
So the magister would use this to concoct things. It's where we get most of our ancient knowledge on the metals and on mercury. And our subsequent uses of mercury are mixtures of gases and vapors.
Yeah.
Do you know how big some of these athanors are?
They are akin to like some of the chimneys we were looking at the destroyed Dresden.
Yes.
And so some of these alchemists are completely giants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also seemingly innocuous structures.
You know who this is, right?
Who what?
You know who that god is, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, we don't
Now,
have that. It's funny how they would use these furnaces also as like that's why you saw the Moloch Baal furnace, because it was basically the same thing. So they used that as, to cremate as well and stuff like that. It's weird. They were so multi-purpose thinking in many of the things they did.
But, yes.
Of course, why wouldn't they be? It's just us that think that we have to specialize and put conditions on everything.
Well, when we get into furnaces,
Rimstar?
Oh, what?
Oh, sorry. Go on. Just ignore it.
Ah, that's where I am. I guess I'm sharing this now. Lava casting for sculptural applications. At Tamkrabot Monastery in Praputabat in Thailand. Now look at this. We always say, how did they do it? What are they doing? Do you know what this is? They cast these from lava.
Well, couldn't it be that as the Romans, they used lava or ash in their brick making? Could it be the same?
No.
It's not ash infused bricks or stonework.
No. This right here is actually a newer method where they have to repair these constantly because the inner metal framework is iron and it's rebar as we use today, and it oxidizes.
Yeah, that would definitely interest the likes of Wise Up.
Yes. Now, these are monks that do this with almost zero technology. They make the lava. This lava, it's basalt. And you see they pour into the cast at various levels. This is clay in here. They've created the casting mold and they pour it. And even with old technology, they had been doing this. Yes, today they're using metal and they're using metal scaffolding, but they had done this before they had that. These are very old.
Yeah, and they could also, if they were a tad more advanced, they could have used form, right?
Yes.
And how would they make the form?
In many different ways, actually. But this is just
what I've always, because I have a book on how they made like this statue complete with a horse and a guy riding on it, as you would see in like a copper statue seen in Copenhagen, for instance.
Uh-huh.
And instead of a guy chiseling a rock or whatever, you would see a form and a liquid being poured into it, and then it would be heated, and then it would be cooled, and then you would break the form away by chiseling the form away, and then inside you would have the statue.
Yes, that actually proved to be...
Is how you make the form. How do you make the form so structurally perfect? So
with a mold, you create a mold. And the casting you're talking about proved to be too wasteful because you couldn't reuse the form.
Exactly.
You would have to remake it. So they initially did it that way, and they ignored the old peg casting that they used to do, thinking it was inferior. But then they rediscovered a way to reuse their forms or their molds, since they didn't need. You first carve or shape something out of something soft, and then you press the form into it, and it takes on that shape. You can do this with clay and a key, just for a simple way, or with silly putty and a newspaper. You can actually take that ink. But they did it this way, and here is large evidence of monks doing this, just a few of them, constantly, to make all of this. And you would think, if this is carved, this is a wonder of the world. But I kept thinking, they did this before they had iron.
But how did they exactly shape it?
They made a clay mold.
Yeah, but how did they get such a high advanced level of shaping?
Well, the shaping itself isn't advanced. It's older than we've ever thought it was.
But it's still highly artistic work and good reproduction. They look identical, as if they were 3D printed.
They do.
So how?
And we can see that they aren't.
But how do they exactly shape them and make all the details?
Here.
Is it what tools do they use to make the round shapes and the eyelets and stuff like that?
Essentially, they take the mold from a statue undegraded. They're just keeping the work up right now, and it's much easier because you can press the clay while it's moist.
So they take an archaeological piece and copy from it?
Well, they've been repairing these each at different times. When one degrades, they press the mold around a complete part next to it, set it, and use it to recast.
Okay, so what you're saying is there was one original structure that was built the same way, and there was an original artist that shaped it.
Yes, and may have shaped it with a mold or a soft surface, and they have been reproducing the others.
So my point is, sorry for interrupting, is that there's still high-level artistry going into the fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so yes, but it's not men with hammers and chisels carving away at rock for decades.
It's forming mud or forming soft materials, rather.
Initially, yes, but to get these hard structures, these monks are making lava sculptures.
That's crazy.
And so it got me thinking, if there is, where are we? If there's such degradation due to the oxidizing iron inside that ruins this basalt, and what is basalt? Basalt is lava. You can find it everywhere. If they have this and it's degrading, yet we see other things that may have been cast, what's inside of them holding them? Well, this is called a mafic or mafic, but it's a type of rock. Basalt is a mafic rock.
Yep.
And we find basalt everywhere. Now, give me 1 second. I'm going to share a separate screen here. We're doing this everywhere. We're casting basalt right now on a highly industrialized level all around the world. You see all of this? This is rock. Yep. It's not steel. It's a piece of rock. We're making tiles. We are making pipes. They're using, as you can see here, liquefaction in the cooling process, applying a vibration, which is what we do with cement. Now, cement is sand types and liquid, and it's done with no temperature increase. This is done the opposite way. This is done using lava, and then a temperature decrease sets it. That's not going to play. Oh well. But they go over the entire casting process. They go over some of the histories of it. And I've found many companies that do this. And to find that monks have been doing since times of antiquity.
Nathan, these pages are seriously taxing your Nathan. These
crazy to think.
Nathan, these pages are taxing your connection.
What?
You break up.
Oh, they really are. I have so much open. 1 sec. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Let's try this one more time. Can you see?
Yes.
Aha. Okay. So I took a look at the history of metal casting. And here's a small infographic that shows what we were casting. Ceramics and stone goes, as well as gold, goes back 10,000, 12,000 years. If you look at a lot of these temples in India, you can find marks of stone casting where they have been doing this, and it's structures that we couldn't understand. We don't know how or why they began. And now I've saved these links so that you guys can pore over this. These are the regions where they had specific metals. They cast axes, they cast swords. A lot of what you showed, Victor, with your worn down swords.
Yeah.
When you were talking about lances, those are cast metal.
Oh yeah, I would see.
And here is an image of statuette casting and how they had done it. I mean, just like Sauron cast the One Ring.
That was how I described the process earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
a lot of work went into making the form.
Yes.
And that was the problem. And that's a Buddha furnace?
Yeah.
Wow. So a lot of maybe the large Buddha statues, I recently found a lot of them, were
All of them.
big furnaces.
No. The furnace was outside and built around. That there.
Sorry.
That right there is the framework.
What's the inside?
Metal.
Why?
So when they were casting bronze, they don't have to worry about like the basalt castings.
But
when they were casting metal statues, they could use a metal framework on the inside.
But when these guys break apart and deteriorate, don't we see that there was a lot of dirt and stuff like that between, or rock between the metals, the rebar or the metal?
In the pictures of them casting with basalt, yes.
No, I'm thinking more about when they have become ruins and they are deteriorating and breaking apart. We see that they are not hollow inside sometimes, or well.
No, what you're looking at here is the mold before they pour the brass.
Ah, excuse my ignorance.
This is actually bronze, not brass. I'm sorry, but this is an example of how they did it, and they paid great attention to it.
Go on.
And they have images here of the casting process and the different things that were and still are today cast. And this got me thinking about, this is Istanbul. It's got me thinking about what else could be cast and how we could cast things. And did ancient civilizations use lava?
And
more than we thought.
And is the reason for all the big furnaces and chimneys we see in France and Europe and in all these 1840s photos and stuff like that, they actually, for what you are describing, making large statues.
Large castings of everything. This is a cannon.
Wow. Because you would definitely need like an industry such as that to make all the art that we're seeing. And that's why we see so many chimneys. That's like that's how they made the industrial dystopia art. They turned that chimney into coal and all sorts of polluting industries in our minds, but in reality, they were for casting all this art. And that's how perhaps they hit, and because that's what you have to do. You have to bend reality into a lie, and that's how they did it. Wouldn't you agree, guys, that that's a probable solution to all the chimneys?
Yes, indeed.
And
when we get into
useful for them to use all those chimneys and turn it around and to make a scary image out of it, because we've all seen all the dark images of the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah,
it's associated with pollution and kids working, and it's just very dark, right? But it may be hiding this. That's how they made all the art.
It is.
Because that has been a big question in my mind. We have always, you know, imagined that they needed big factories like we see today, but basically they had the technology on a local level, right? They had small hubs.
Yes. Look at this. These two guys alone with a wheel and some clay are, and you see they're putting in small rods. You could even use stone, but they are casting.
Yeah, they're casting.
And they're making these. They have one form, they turn it on a lathe, and they make these. And there's actually a huge market for it. Because what do people like to do? They like to have fancy works. Now, if there was no electricity to be found in the area, you could still do this because you could just have a man turning the wheel of the lathe.
Yeah.
And so they say, we built the expositions. And how did they get built so fast? And they say it's all made of plaster. What do you do with plaster? You cast it. But it doesn't necessarily have to be indestructible brickwork or stone.
No, and I have a lot of evidence that shows that the expositions were exactly plaster.
Even if they were stone just like this, they look majestic and they're quite a bit weaker than we would believe when we see the finished product.
Yeah. It's a good rip-off.
Oh yes. And now this industry allows for some monumental feats.
And it's like with the word sincere. It came from an architectural principle. It comes from Spanish. Sincera means without wax, referring to statues, whether they were with or without wax, determined the authenticity of the work.
Yes.
So sincere statues, they were the ones that were, you know, complete. They didn't contain wax. They didn't have this this concrete or this filler material poured into them. There were so we are looking at different types of technology, and they basically could accomplish the same thing judged on face value.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, and that's how they could hide.
Now, it makes me think that the originals of what we look at are so far long gone, because we've seen weathering in current structures, and even structures from the 1800s. We've seen them so incredibly weathered, which means that even what we find today and think is old may possibly be a recreation. This right here, diorite, is also granodiorite as a type. And this rock, I think, was lava casted. Do you see this? This vase? This diorite statue?
Yeah.
The historic use. The Code of Hammurabi, inscribed on diorite. Incan and Mayan civilizations having used it. Diorite steps of St. Paul's Cathedral. You don't need to, honestly, you don't need to lug a 40-ton brick across 3,000 miles. You could have caravans of slaves carry dirt and rock, small bricks, chunks, just like we saw in the brick makers in Nepal. Never underestimate a load of people carrying small things. hence the symbolism of the fasces. And when you get all of these rocks there, you melt them down and you cast stone. And I think that's the way they did it. I think that lava is the answer to the ancient world. And to be more specific, I think that lava was heated with fire and rock was melted with a sun forge. How's that for you?
I'm with you. I got nothing to debate. I'm with you.
They don't know how they did it? Well, I found out 2 direct ways that we do it today and 2 direct ways scientifically applicable in the past.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid case, dude.
Feldspar crystal is part of them.
The most common mineral on Earth.
Yeah. Feldspar right there is everywhere.
Yep.
And it's a big part of both lava, basalt, diorite, granite, granodiorite, black granite. You can even find it in all your silicate clays. I spent 4 hours learning about rocks. Olivine.
Oh, yeah.
It's a neosilicate. Olivine right here rains from the sky when new lava pushes all of the old aggregate out of an old lava tube.
Whoa. Wow.
So,
how exactly?
So you have lava that came out of a lava tube once, right? And then the lava flow stops and it leaves this hollow tube in a lot of cases. And the next time it blows, you have ash eruptions before you have the lava hit the surface. It blows everything out of that tube. And what do you have? You have chunks of neosilicate that is olivine. And this happened in 2016 or 2017 in Hawaii, where it rained olivine and a bit of peridot, which is really, really nice.
Peridot.
What can it be used for?
They use it for jewelry. They say that it doesn't have a lot of power as a monetary source. However, what's interesting is that when they do plasma experiments in labs, the rock that they use is olivine because it's so highly conductive. This is the test rock that they use to prove electric universe and plasma theory.
That's very interesting. So how would it not be used in electrical? How would it not be used in electrical sciences or technologies?
It's one of the prime reasons that we can argue for an electrified Earth, because you can find olivine and its superconductive state. You can find this in every bit of granite. It's why granite conducts electricity.
It's funny because I've reflected a lot upon volcanicity and what exactly it is. We all know, or I assume a lot of us know, that in Venezuela, or is it Bolivia? I think it's in Venezuela, there's a lake, and the northern part of that lake, I think it's 280 days a year, there's a thunderstorm going on there.
Lake Maracaibo.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's by a volcano.
It's Lake Maracaibo.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Isn't that
Maracaibo also is very fond of earth sweat. The oil in that area of the earth is incredible. It's why Venezuela is a founding member of OPEC. So incredible lightning, incredible volcanism, and huge, fast, replenishable amounts of earth sweat, which is oil.
But what exactly is that mass hub of energy? What is it that causes the basalt to form in hexagonally?
There is a star fort at the entrance to Lake Maracaibo.
Interesting.
Importance is old.
But we have seen the basalt and how it forms, and we have also seen, Devil's Causeway and Devil's Tower, and we've heard the volcanic explanations. And we cannot really say, it's hard to argue against all the evidence that's been found around volcanic eruptions containing basalt formations, at least around them, having these hexagonal shapes. I have a lot of old books talking, at least showing pictures and figures about volcanic stones, how they're being magnetic and how they're being formed by the volcanic event somehow into these shapes, and it's quite
the high magnetism during the spouting of this lava, especially high silicate lava, rich in olivine, is the reason for these shapes. Now, how?
Thank you, Nathan. That makes sense. That's also. I was basically concluding the same. I wasn't specific, but the principles you just mentioned was basically my same conclusion. So what is happening at a volcanic event? It's basically a magnetic event.
Exactly. It's all one thing. We're just looking at different symptoms of it, and we're stumped because we haven't pieced it together. Now, the funny thing is, everyone in the ancient world at some point did piece it together.
Yes.
They took electromagnetics, they took lava casting, they took forge work, they took all of this from watching volcanoes, I would wager, from learning how they worked and everything, and from imitating them. And so we're looking at ancient technology and thinking it's incredible. And while it is, it's only incredible because we don't think about what causes a volcano and how they may have imitated it.
Would that explain a bit on how some people theorize that volcanoes are all man-made? Now, I'm not saying
I've never heard of that.
Are man-made, but hear me out. What if the volcanoes were, as theorized, rubble storage from mining operations, and they kept them off from exploding with the stuff that we now see, like basalt with olivine in it? And once
that's interesting.
Reaches like a boiling point, that cap will still go off, and that's something they didn't encounter for. If you look at, what is it in Washington, that really big volcano that when Helen's blew up from the side. So what if the cap they made was too effective and it blew out from the side? This is just theory, right?
Well, let's take that theory a step farther. If volcanoes are man-made, if any of that is true, then how do you keep a volcano from exploding? You keep the electromagnetism from exciting the silicate lava from the volcano. So in order to tamp down that excitement, you would need to have a world grid of star forts to keep these things calm.
Oh, damn. Damn. Well, there you go.
Well, if you can dredge up this man-made volcano theory, I'd definitely look into it, because there would be no other way to stop electromagnetic radiation from exciting materials, from essentially making lava viscous.
This would explain horn-shaped cities. They emitted frequencies to keep the volcanoes at bay.
Oh, that's crazy. I would definitely look into that. It sounds
No, you're the
so
one who
wild.
you're the
I'm
one who
interested.
looks into that. I can give you locations of forts that are shaped
No,
like
that's
horns, but I can't give you. You're the brick guy.
no. I will look into it, most definitely. It's so out there. I have to
Yeah, that's it, right? It's so
check
out there.
this out.
It would explain a bit of why the horns need to be that big, right? Because volcanoes are massive.
It could. Now look at this. 6,000 years old. The volcanoes themselves cast these. This is a natural structure.
What?
Sure about that?
Oh yeah, look at it. Lava cast forest. Lava flowed over a forest, and lava is rock. So some of the larger trees burned and turned to ash, which is how you create molds. You say you have a mold made of wood. You create your shape of wood, and then you form the mold around it. And then you put the whole thing in the fire, and the wood burns out, and the hollow is left.
Oh,
So that's how you have your mold. This happened with a forest in Oregon.
that's why you see. That's why I mentioned Weishaupt, because one of his basic tenets has always been that the real artistry, the real shaping, was always, and the real aesthetic science, the aesthetic shape science of the old world was and is carpentry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that.
You showed me, Nathan. You showed me that tree they hollowed out with the amazing scenery in it. What was that? Was that New Zealand?
It did. That might not have been me. I'm not one to forget things.
No, you're not one to forget things. So I was shown an image of a hollowed out tree, and that had like the most amazing scenery carved into it, and that was recent times. And
Oh wow.
they did that in times of old, and that would make a mold out of wood.
What do you know, guys? Maybe in 10 years we would be able to apply some of these principles in building stuff.
I'm trying. I'm not very good at it, but I'm trying.
That is what this is all leading to, us being able to practically apply some of these things we learn.
We need forests of hemp to make hempcrete.
Yeah, Nathan, you would like to help me, right? Building a copper coil, orgonite.
Oh yeah. I'll show you a really easy way.
So I can boost my plants a bit.
We can do that, and I can show you the effectiveness of the one that I use versus the ones that are built in these pretty pyramid shapes that are honestly orders of magnitude less effectual.
I told everyone who looks into Oregon
Always been wary of things being sold. It's just too easy. Always that feeling in the back of my head.
there is an intent thing going on there as well, man.
Yeah, I would rather understand the principle and be able to do it myself.
Yeah, that's it. There is a definite intent thing going on there. I discussed this.
I am looking for
the intent you put into that item makes so much more difference to what it does.
Also that, yes.
and these people, you can buy like pretty organized pyramids from. They made that their job, and they have shit days, just like every one of us.
Exactly. That's why if you want to do something right,
Do
want to find
organize, make it yourself, and that's pretty much how I think about that.
Yeah.
Because you're the one that puts the intent into that stuff. I feel the same way with minerals, right? A lot of people ascribe certain qualities to minerals, and I'm willing to go as far as that each mineral emits a unique vibration, but there's a lot of bullshit minerals out there as well.
Yeah, there's a whole industry.
People get sold fancy crystal rocks that are basically just like coated in titanium.
Yeah, worthless.
Like you got angel quartz or aura quartz or azesthite, and it's nothing but treated quartz. And quartz is the most common fucking shiny mineral out there.
Exactly. And people don't know this. People they don't want to know it because they want to be able to think that it's possible to go and buy commercially anything that brings value to your life. It's very rare to actually buy something commercially easily and that brings value into your life.
Like
look at this
stuff like magnetite. I'll go with the properties of magnetite, right? That's been proven like since the Olmec technology. I'll copper based minerals having an effect. But the moment someone tells me like, well, this azurite I got, it really made me open my third eye. No, that azurite did shit. You opened your third eye, and maybe the azurite helped a bit, but that's it. It's a copper mineral. It turned blue. There you go. There's nothing special about azurite. Like, it's so common, it's not even funny. So everyone that has an azurite has an open third eye. No, you wanted to open your third eye and use the azurite as a guide to do that.
Yeah.
That's your intent with stones, and that's what they do for you. You give them an intent. Same with orgonite. It's copper and minerals.
Everything is a talisman.
Yep.
Look at this. This is basalt rebar. You remember how I showed the statues and they were corroding because of the iron and the typical rebar? All you have to do is pour lava into into a rod. That's it. And you have rock rebar.
We're getting there to the point where we can actually build a starport.
How does that happen?
Huh?
What's special about the lava?
About the
lava?
How does it get to be rebar?
I can tell you one thing special about lava.
Then they pour it into shapes.
Lava is extremely fine and dusty stuff.
Yeah.
So it's dense.
Yes, I get that. But
once you pour it, it becomes incredibly dense. So it's really strong and long-lasting stuff.
And it doesn't corrode like metal does because it's rock. So those holes in the top of Roman columns could be basalt rebar. One of the first laws of concrete structures is that you need a graded structure. Instead of having 10 feet by 10 feet in a stone block, you need something in it to help with the tension and compression and torsion.
I just saw Victor. Sorry, I'm going immediately through you, but I just had something come to me. Like Victor posted that image of them removing the statues.
Yeah, we can talk about the cathedral burning.
No, it's not about the cathedral burning per se. I've been noticing a lot of star fort. No, not a lot. A couple of star forts being rebuilt in the Netherlands. What if this church is being burned so that they can rebuild it to actually function as a machine again?
That's what I've been thinking about too.
Rebuild.
It just comes to me, and I sorry I interrupt you, but I needed to get that out there. It just comes to me like I've been noticing a couple of star forts being rebuilt here and there.
So what's the purpose for that? Why?
Well, seeing as we are figuring out that all this old tech was machinery, they are figuring out this old tech was machinery. What if they're rebuilding the stuff? What is coming and why are they rebuilding the stuff? Because they're going to rebuild Notre Dame. I can guarantee you that.
So they find out it's machinery, and that makes them burn the machinery down to rebuild the machinery?
No. They have already corrupted the machinery, and now they need to make it so that they can put it back into place again. The church corrupted all the stuff, didn't they? During the quote unquote Middle Ages, when they put all the machines out.
Still in power?
Sorry?
The church is still in power, so the church should know what it did in the past.
They're hiding the old traces. They'll rebuild it, and it'll be a nice imitation.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at as well.
But they can erase what they want to erase in the rebuilding.
Yeah.
Check these out.
But
built and rebuilt and rebuilt.
So, do you think the trigger to that event is us looking into all of this?
Could be. It would be.
Don't
to say that would be full of hubris. So I fully agree.
I'm not saying that is definitive here, but why do you think I've been telling Nathan to just shut up with his theories and keep it to a couple of people that he knows and trusts?
No.
Or I'm not paranoid here. It's just logical thinking. There's 400 people in that Discord. You don't know who's who. You don't have the faintest clue.
If we're forcing their hand, let's keep doing that.
Oh, I'm not of the mind of quitting this shit. Never.
No. I'm not saying.
I'm just saying that what we're sharing needs to be shared at critical points so that we can make just as much use of it as they do.
Yeah, but
that's what I'm trying to say.
I don't think I buy that they didn't know this.
Of course they know. They're doing it.
Do you see this?
Yeah. Lava cast?
I think that this was cast.
Lava.
The Elora Caves, I think were largely cast. Oh, that's too small, but the Ramapa Temple is a very good one. Let's see if I can find something.
You would also cast all the things that you would use technologically.
Yes, just about all of them. And when I was looking at it, before I got to the lava idea, essentially forge casting stone, I was thinking about acidification and stone softening tools. And we use those nowadays. It's called a super plasticizer. And when you put it in, it's a powder derived from an acid. And when you put it into a cement mixture, you can use 1/10 of the water and shape this stone.
Wow.
And so what would I do if I were lazy and I needed to make something last? I would take to the hardest rock that I could with a hammer and bust it up into sand. I would get the smallest pieces I could out of it, and I would mix it with a bit of water and a bit of acid, and then I would pour it into a shape, and now you have that rock again in the shape I desire.
Oh.
That's cement. Now, if you did that with fire, that's casting. All of these structures.
And that means if we have the means of eating as they did, if we did that locally, we could And if we had a good carpenter to create a good mold, we could do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Shiva temple right here, this could be as simple as them using the stones inside the very quarry to cast. And so they turn this quarry into a temple.
Yes.
As they broke up the rock, as they put it through the foundry, as they got it poured and casted it.
Yeah, but it
The
doesn't
whole
say
thing.
from the crazy. How did they do the mold for this?
Clay. Different types of clay. When you look at casting, there's specific types of sand and clay that will take to a shape and hold. And when you pour hot metal through it, it's clay. You can't burn clay. The metal on the very outside cools. If the cooling is done evenly, then you can have even a smooth surface. And then you simply rub that. Diorite, granodiorite, and black granite can all be polished to a shine.
Yeah, as we see inside the Giza pyramids, for example.
Yes. And all you have to do is put something on it, like a treatment or a sealant, and it will stay for even longer. A lot of these things that they're attempting to do here, when they rebuild these temples or attempt to fix it, they're ruining it. They tried to redo this temple here, and they ruined it. And now you see these lighter pieces on the outside. They're degrading faster than they ever were because of the sloppy repair job. And I think it's because they used a cold cement with chemicals instead of casting with heat.
Okay. It's crazy how the simple and available method defeats the complicated method.
Yes. Now, the thing about it is, who taught them how to do this?
Well,
Volcano?
maybe the natural phenomena of a volcanic eruption taught them that.
Yeah, it could be.
They saw basalts forming. They saw flowing rock petrifying, and they thought to themselves, maybe we can use that in a way to build stone-like formations, because everything was biomimicry to them. They looked at nature and they mimicked it, and
Yes.
it was very intelligent of them. Look at Victor Schauberger and how he mimicked the beetles, the flying beetles, I think it was.
Do you see this?
Yes.
This is one of the many pillars in Ramappa Temple. And do you see the smooth bent side on the left?
Yes.
This is indicative of deformation of a casting when the casting cools unevenly. So the heat held to that corner of the mold more so than the rest and was intentionally left blank. This is the only face of the only pillar in Ramappa Temple that's blank. And it's bent as if the stone was wet, as if the stone, it looks honestly like bent sheet metal. But when you hit it, it's solid, black granite, basalt. This is one of the stronger arguments for stone casting in Ramappa Temple.
Okay. And
look at this. I mean,
you don't think that the stone casting and the lava excludes all of this also being able to have a sort of function?
It does. It conducts electricity still. So
Yes.
these pillars may have been for the very things that that Martin and yourself look into with EM tech, and that Mike and myself look into with the waveguide structures, because these pillars still serve a function, and you can find the exact floor plan and design in our phones, in our computers, in our microchips, in everything.
It definitely makes more sense that, for example, the Laura caves being melting.
That is the evil cave. That's what the locals call it. They said it was a place of torture.
Oh, that's interesting. Because when you see it, it definitely looks like the whole mountain melted. Could be that. It could be that you had a melted mountain, and then they went in and did what you described. Or it could be that they did what you described, and it melted.
Yeah. If it is...
Why about the melted part is that when it looks like it was evenly melted, if it was melted, the whole structure on top of it was melted, and then you have this. What I don't buy is that there's no, gradient between melted and not melted. It's like it doesn't flow into one another. It's like you have the structure, and then you have the rest. There's nothing in between. So if it was melted, I think we would see that gradient of semi-melted, melted, and just a gradient. And we don't see that in the Laura caves. We see melted and non-melted. There's a clear distinction.
Yeah, and it could be a large event.
But I think if we're listening to you, it could suggest that maybe the reason why there's a clear distinction is that they took they built it out of the rock with the casting, and they turned it on site into the temple. But yeah, I don't. It's hard to exclude. We're looking for ways to exclude the other theories. So that's hard. It's hard to exclude that it could be a melted structure, and they took that melted structure and tried to shape up what was left in the best possible manner that's possible. It's also possible that it was an elaborate structure that melted, and that was what was left. That's also possible, and it's I think it's very difficult to pin down exactly still what happened to and how it came to be. It's still a big mystery. But I think we're pretty close to. I think you can stand on your position, your point, your assertion that
pretty damn solid.
These are casted in lava casting.
Well, this is again the four pillars that are polished, and you can see that blemished pillar on the left.
Oh man, it's that shows it even better. It's like a cannon. It's like a cannonball hit it from this angle.
Yeah, that is a trick of the light. There's a video I can share where a man rubs his hand on it, and it's just a dip, as if it just collapsed in like a bad.
I'm not saying a cannonball actually hit it. I mean, your other image was pretty clear in explaining it, but this image, because of that glare, shows what's wrong with that side of the square. That's why I meant to get across. No, you don't need to show me a video. That previous video pretty much showed to me what it looks like, but this displays it even better. The weirdness of it. It's all warped, and the rest of the pillars have all the facings on them, and this one side doesn't. For what reason?
Yeah, you.
Why is the rock warped?
Exactly. And this whole thing about cement in our structures and such, we see evidence of that, but that's casting with water. And so this is the whole point of today. I think it's incredible that we find evidence of casting by fire and not casting metal, casting stone. I think that's the coolest thing, and no one talks about this.
Yeah, I think that would definitely lead to serious breakthroughs here.
Yeah, what else fits this mold? They need to stop trying to rebuild stuff because they're breaking it. That's happened in so many spots in India and Sri Lanka.
You see it as well with all the with all the housing projects over here. Like,
Why do they even rebuild it? Is it because they're trying to save it?
No, actually, a lot of the rebuilds that they did in the 1800s in South America, actually ruined the entire excavation site. It ruined the whole site. For them to rebuild it, it essentially covers up anything that we might have found that added to any more illumination on the subject.
You see a lot of
It's a cover-up.
Mixing with water doesn't really make sense. Just looking at the housing projects they put up here in my city.
Mm-hmm.
It's built with a pace that is pretty much astonishing, but then if you look at the buildings after a couple of years, it shows so much signs of wear already.
Yeah.
And it just makes no sense. And this makes it make sense. Water is a stupid way to build a fucking house.
What about the electrical canals?
Oh, goodness. I'm not ready for it.
Maybe we will eventually tie this into my very, very early idea of them being tied into Mercury.
Look at this video. It is Professor Eric Lathwaite,
I've seen
The Magnetic River. I shared this with you, I think.
Yeah, you shared this with me. It's excellent.
This explains how with just some coil and a small charge, you can shoot something down a river. And it also explains the flow of magnetism and how a man with some copper wire and some spare time could create a maglev in his lab. It's incredible. But that should prime you for talk about the canals next time.
Also, dude, can't wait. And
I got some
magnificent. Although I sounded sometimes skeptical, it was just to play devil's advocate. It was awesome.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's always good, man. That furthers theories as well. It's like you said earlier before we recorded. A healthy amount of skepticism is never wrong.
It's the reason.
It's the reason why we're getting where we're at, because of being skeptic. Don't assume anything for immediate truth. Be skeptic.
Yeah,
I'll do into my into my Amsterdam, because what I just found while looking now is that they say they used some kind of injection method to harden the soil to drill a tunnel through.
I know this. Hold on. There's a plasticizer and a deplasticizer. You can actually turn something soft into stone. We use it right now, actually. We inject CO2 into basalt, and it turns it into a new solidified rock. It's crazy.
Yeah, but they what they do here is inject something into the swamp, is what they say.
Yeah, you can totally do it. It's a chemical thing. back to the Athenors, I suppose.
Okay, I guess
sound-
I'm wondering then, is
what's possible. It still sounds like something that would be very ridiculous to do.
it's ridiculous to do. It's a whole lot of money. I also found out that about 80% of the old metro network is above ground. So
Yeah, we don't even have to speculate. We can just look at the evidence.
I'm just looking at a wiki page now, right? What the wiki page gives me, and I'm wondering then if they had to harden the soil, and that metro tunnel is at a certain depth. I don't know exactly how deep. I will get back to that next week. But why would all the buildings start shaking? And there is no mention of this on the Wikipedia either, and I know for a fact that it happened.
Damn.
Yeah, Amsterdam.
So that just makes me wonder, why would you solidify the ground? Like I know it's possible now because you just explained that, but why would you solidify the ground then to such a manner that it actually extends into the buildings and the vibrations start demolishing the buildings?
Yeah, it just seems even though you can even after you have solidified a swamp and you build something on it, it just seems like that what they're saying happened would suggest that there isn't something added to a solidified swamp. It was one big solid structure that got swamped with mud.
That seems far more likely.
Yeah, that seems, especially considering it is the Netherlands that has been flooded several times over.
Yeah.
Wait, did you mean the Netherlands?
Oh shit, I meant the Netherlands. Yes.
Oh, okay.
just to make sure, right? Just so we're talking about the Netherlands. Yes, I meant the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And it has been flooded over. There is one star city that sunk somewhere in the 1600s in Zealand.
I wonder what we would see if the sea levels dropped 50 meters.
Oh,
and would be exposed in the seashore around the Netherlands. I think we would see a lot of forts.
Same thoughts here, because you got Doggers Land in between the UK and Netherlands and Denmark. Actually, that's
yeah, but I think Doggerland was just a sea bank. I think it was bad soil. I think it was a crossing and nothing more.
Well, that's also really possible.
Or solid and inhabitable, but out of the maps, it looks like it was like a mud bank, a sand bank, and just a natural bridge.
Mm-hmm.
That
This has been awesome.
Tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
If you're interested in trying out the Foundry, just visit tartarynova.com